How much do you need to make a year to purchase a home in Keller, Texas? That's the question of the day. That's the question we're going to be answering today. So how much do you need to earn to purchase a home in Keller, Texas? Let me just make sure our audio is working okay. Perfect. All right, so Keller, Texas is on the brain. Keller, Texas is on the map. So if you're looking to move to Keller, let me know in the comments section down below right here and right now, because we're going to do a deep breakdown. Oops, sorry. I cut myself yesterday, went to the ER and everything, so we got a few stitches. Thankfully, the finger is salvageable, so we're going to continue using it. Everything that we talk about is going to be Keller based. We're going to talk Keller based property, Keller property taxes, real estate prices, home insurance, HOAs, which is going to be very important, especially in Keller, by the way. We're going to talk about everything that has to do with Keller in relation to your income, in relation to affordability, in relation to real estate. So if you're in tune for that, well, if you're into that, this is the right video for you. So let's dig into it. How much do we need to earn to purchase a home in Keller, Texas? That's our assignment for today. And we're going to get started by first understanding what the prices are in Keller. So our first place that we get to start is Alto's research, which is real-time market data that gives you real-time information on what the real estate market is doing today. Now, this gives you a really good index of every city that you want to look at. So this is an absolutely free platform for you to use. So just go to altos, altos.re, and then type in the city that you're interested in. Now you can go into zip code, you can go into states, you can do so much information. You can pull up so much information that's actually accurate. Now, we're not going to spend too much time up here. There's a specific part of this research that I really like that we're going to get into, but this just gives you a good snapshot of what the housing market is looking like, what the condos are doing, which you're not going to really find too many in Keller, but it gives you a good understanding of what the market is like. So here, overall, from an index perspective, you see that Keller is a strong seller's market. Now, there's been other cities that we've covered in these deep breakdowns here in the past couple of weeks where it's actually leaning a little bit closer to a buyer's market. So this gives you, again, a really good lay of the land, especially if you're new to the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, where you don't know what all these 80 cities that have over 10,000 in population are like. You might not have that experience with them before. Some of them you've never even heard of before. And in fact, this may be you. Maybe this is the first time that you're hearing about Keller, but you just saw it on a map somewhere and you liked the houses and thought, well, heck, Keller seems like a good place. Let's start looking a little bit deeper into Keller. So as you know, the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex is beyond a Fort Worth and Dallas type city. So just, I knew that that's what I thought when prior to moving to the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex back in 2000s, it was early 2000s. It was just, that's what I thought it was. Dallas, I thought it was Dallas, and I thought it was Fort Worth. That was it. But that is, of course, not the case. Now, you see where prices have been historically for the past 5 years. Now, up until now, this is all pretty good information to know. It's pretty fundamental population to understand. But at the end of the day, the reason that we start our research as we get to answer the question, how much we need to earn in order to purchase a home in Keller, is because of this down here, the market segments. I really enjoy looking at this. Let me see if I can zoom in and get us a better view. I really enjoy using these particular numbers because it gives us a good indication of home values and real estate prices, because you might be moving to Keller and have an understanding. You might be moving to Keller and have an understanding that there's a certain amount of bedrooms that you need. There's a certain amount of baths that you need. There's a certain amount of square footage that you require. So you have that information. You know, hey, I need 3 baths. I need at minimum 4 beds, but I could live with. Actually, I might need 5 beds, but I can live with 4. You know, you have that understanding. So this gives you a really good index of is Keller even on your radar right now? Is it within your budget? So if you have that need of, let's say, 4 beds and 3 baths, well, on average, you're going to need around $635,000 to purchase in Keller, which is radically different than if you had the same housing need and wanted to purchase a home in Garland, as an example, Fort Worth as an example. Let's see what other ones. Irving would be a good one to look at. Grand Prairie would be to look at. So there's it gives you a good quick filter if Keller's even on the map. If your max budget is $500,000 as an example, but you still have the need of 4 beds and 3 baths, well, it might be time to look for another city, like a neighboring city. So if you're trying to stay close to Keller as an example, then I would probably ask that you consider a Hearst, a Bedford, a North Richland Hills would still have some opportunities there. If you can go a little bit further west, I would ask that you consider Saginaw, those types of cities. We're getting too into the weeds here, but for our purposes today, this is a really good index. And what we're going to use today is actually going to be a 4-bed and 3-bath. Now, the reason that we go with 4 beds for sure is because, actually, you know what? We're going to go with this one because this actually hits our indicator. Most of the time when somebody calls us, they require a 4-bed home. That's what most of our calls happen to be. It used to be, hey, the stereotypical 3-bed, 2-bath, done and dusted, super good, out the door. But now, with a lot of folks that are moving in here that are trying to get another room for an office or a studio or what have you, they're looking for 4 beds. So that's why we're getting a lot of those calls. So we're going to go with a 4-bed, and we're going to say 2.5 bath, about almost 2,800 square feet. We're going to need $469,000. That's our number. That's our magical number. Now, can we get a home that is less expensive than that? Of course, that you see here what the average would be. So the number that we're going to get to at the end of the rainbow, but of how much we need to earn, is going to be us trying to hit this number, $469,000. That's the price of the property that we're trying to purchase. Now, could we earn less and still purchase in Keller? Of course. But I just want to show you exactly where to go to input these numbers, so you have a really good roadmap of what to do when you are ready to go. All right, so let me just click here real quick and make sure. There we go. Sorry, I just need to close a little tab there. All right, so with that being said, our number is this, $469,000. So we're gonna go over here to our max price calculator, which is linked down below, $469,000. That's what we're looking at today. That's the number that we're trying to hit. That's the number that we're trying to solve for. As we go through, I'm going to share with you where to go to plug in some numbers. Again, this is linked down below. So this tool, this max price calculator, which gives you the max price of a home that you can purchase with the income that we're going to input here shortly. That's the entire purpose of this tool. So make sure that you check that out. It is linked down below, and I have to give credit where credit is due. The tool that we're referencing right now that you're seeing on the screen at the moment, that was created by Kyle Seagraves by Win the House You Love, which is a YouTube channel that is fantastic. That if you like this channel, you're going to absolutely love that channel because he breaks this open even further. All right, so now let's go. $469,000. That's what we're trying to hit. What we're going to do really quickly is I'm going to give you a visual 15-second cue of what this can actually purchase in Keller. Because sometimes we see a large number like that and we kind of lose the plot. We don't necessarily grasp, well, what does a home like that even look like? I understand that it has a certain requirements that we need, but at the end of the day, what does that even mean? So what we're going to do is we're going to take a very brief glance of some properties that are in this ballpark, about $450 and $500,000. Now, there's not that many, as Keller Texas in and of itself is not that huge, but also this price range is pretty tight from what I typed in. So you see this home, $468,000, that has that 4-bed, 2.5 baths. So this is right on the nose of what we're about to do in terms of price and information here. This is a type of property that you can buy. Over here, very close as well. Over here, same and very similar, except this one's 3 beds and 2 baths. So this gives you a visual cue. Again, we're not going to spend too much time here. It's just something that I want to spend 15 seconds on because you're going to have access to the public sites like Zillow and Redfin and realtor.com and homes.com. So that's something that you're very well versed at. This is something that I might be able to introduce some different concepts, different information that you might not have considered that could be helpful for you today. So that's why we're going to spend a lot of the time here. All right, I was told in my previous live stream that, hey, this I still can't really see these numbers. So I'm going to zoom in even further. Let me know if let me know if you can see this correctly. I think we should be good. All right, so for our purposes today, again, the number we're trying to hit is $469,000. That's the property that we're trying to purchase in Keller, Texas. Our down payment for today, we're going to say is 5% down. Can you do more? Yes. Could you do less? Believe it or not, yes, you can put less down. Now, let's talk about loans for a very brief second and move forward, because the down payment really impacts you personally right now in terms of your preparedness, where you might be thinking, oh, I don't have money for a down payment, or you may be thinking that it's further away. The goal of home ownership is further away than you can imagine. So let's talk about some types of loans. If you're going to purchase cash, cool, that's great. Then you're good to go. If you have $469K in the bank plus a few closing costs, money, give us a call. I'm kidding, but not really. Please give us a call. But assuming that that's not you, and you're looking to purchase, there's going to be 4 primary types of loans that you're going to have access to. 2 abundantly well beyond the other 2, but I'll give you 4, which are the primary 90% of the loans out there. This is how they happen. If you've been in the military, so if you've served, then you have access to what's called a VA loan, Veteran Associations loan. So a VA loan gives you access to a zero down program in terms of a mortgage, in terms of a loan, in terms of home ownership. So you have access to 0% down, meaning you're not coming out of pocket to purchase a home. Now that is contingent upon you serving, you being in the military. The other type of loan that gives you access to 0% down is what's called a USDA loan. So this is the United States Department of Agriculture loan. So this is more of a rural type loan. This is a loan that depends entirely actually, on the property, on the house, on the property and where it happens to be. If it happens to be in a USDA approved zone, then that you can purchase that home for 0% down. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you are a veteran or not a veteran. It doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with the property. If the property itself is in a USDA approved zone, then you can purchase that home for 0% down. Now, in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, that's a little bit harder to come by, especially in Keller, because although Keller started as a rural area, as a farm town area, if you will, that's no longer the case by any stretch of the imagination, but there might be some pockets here and there, but just want to give you an understanding of the types of loans. So that is the other 0% down product. The next 2, those are going to be the most frequent, by far and away, the most frequent types of loans, and that is your FHA loan and your conventional loan. An FHA loan will, you can get into an FHA loan for 3.5% down. Now, with an FHA loan, although you can get into an FHA loan at 3% down, you're also responsible for what's called mortgage insurance. So this mortgage insurance is essentially a additional percentage, typically half to a full point percentage additional on your monthly payment. And that mortgage insurance payment, or essentially that additional percentage, never goes away. So that's a big distinction that you need to understand when it comes to FHA. But again, you can get into a property for 3.5% down. Conventional, this gives you a bit more flexibility. Conventional typically costs a little bit less long term. With conventional, you can actually get into a loan for 3% down. So you can see it's actually less than an FHA. Now, conventional does require you to have a bit better credit. Conventional does also give you the huge benefit of, although if you get into a home for 3% down, as an example, you will also be responsible for mortgage insurance. There, you're paying an additional premium on your loans up until you own 20% of that property. So by the time you get to 20% owner equity and ownership of the property, once that happens, then that mortgage insurance goes away. So at some point in the future, as you continue making your payments, the additional premium that we were talking about with mortgage insurance, that goes away with the conventional. That's something that doesn't go away on FHA. I gave way more information that you probably cared for, but I just want to be a little bit more precise, especially when it comes to down payment, because a lot of us might not necessarily know that we can get into a home for 3% down, for 3.5% down, 5% down, because that was certainly the case with me prior to getting into the industry. I thought it was 20% down, and that's all that, I mean, there was no questions about it. That was what it had to be. I was mistaking. So I don't want you to mistake as well. Down payment, 5% down. We're going to go with that number just to have a good round number. You can do a little bit less, you can do a little bit more, but that's a good starting point for us. Now, interest rate. This is your mortgage interest. This is what you see all over the news in terms of when they're talking about rates, when they're talking about housing expense, housing cost, is home affordable, is a home affordability, what's the home affordability like, what's going on with these mortgage rates. This is what they're talking about. Now, we can go into a chart, but I think what's best to show you right now is mortgage interest rate today. This is the exact same thing that you can do in your home search right now. So here, we're just going to take a ballpark, going to take a reasonable number to come up with our calculation that we're trying to hit today. So we need to get into a property of $469,000. So we're going to say we're going to borrow, on the high end, we're going to borrow $500,000, which we're going to borrow less than this, but just to give you an idea. And you see that the movement already, just keep an eye on this number as I make the adjustments and I talk you through it. So originally we were asking for $300,000, but now we're asking for $500,000. You see that our 30-year, which is the most common type of term, goes down. Now we're also going to be doing 5% down. So you're seeing what is happening with that number right there. We're going to be in Texas, and what we're going to say is, so keep this number in mind right here, 7.36. Keep that number in mind right now. See what happens when we go and improve our credit score by 30 points. That number radically moved by 3%. Now let's just say we maxed it out and we have pristine credit, you get below 7%. So this is why it's so important that we improve our credit score wherever we can. Now I recognize that credit is something that is challenging. I recognize that. So when I say do the best that you can, I say get with either with us to help you, coach you through some strategies that can quickly elevate your credit score, with a preferred lender. Again, we have preferred lenders all throughout the country that we can help connect you with so you can start working on improving this credit score. I wouldn't right out of the gate, this is me being completely candid with you, I wouldn't right out of the gate go and try and connect with a credit repair specialist, because not all of them are good. In fact, from my experience, from the ones that we've worked with, a lot of them are bad. A lot of them, there's a lot of reasons for that, mostly because the improving a credit score is not an overnight thing. And oftentimes you don't necessarily find out that somebody is terrible until you've already paid hundreds of dollars into thousands of dollars only to see your credit score not improve. By that time, it's already been months. And at that point, there's so little that you can do, right? So there's plenty of strategies that real estate agents can help you with. There's plenty of strategies that lenders can help you with. And these are all at no cost to you in terms of those types of services. But when it comes to credit repair companies, all that fun stuff, you do need to work with reputable ones that can actually improve and look at your specific situation without providing you cookie cutter advice. With that being said, let's continue. So for our purposes today, we're going to say that we can secure a loan for 7.25 right here and right now. Now, by the time you're watching this video, hopefully rates are in the 5s, rates are in the 4s. I doubt they'll ever go back to the 2s like we had a couple years ago. But depending on where you happen to be at this point in time when you're watching this video, you can always go down to the description and get this max price calculator so you can input this information. All right, let's just spill over myself. I'm professional. Interest rates, done. All right, how long is your mortgage? Standard 30 years, although you can do 20 years, you can do 15 years. In fact, there's products now you can do 40 years. So, but the length of term, that is something that you can adjust. Property taxes. This is where you're going to find the most meat on the bone in this particular video. Now, chances are, regardless if this is the first video that you've watched when it comes to purchasing a property, welcome. Hopefully, I'm providing some valuable insights here. Or you might be somebody that is, you're buying your third home, your fifth home, your thousandth home, thousand. Is that right? You're buying a lot of properties. Let's just say you're an expert. This right here, I think this is where I could provide the most value to you. I do a lot of consulting, not because I want to at this point, but I have a lot of resources on property taxes. I have a lot of videos out there that they're the first that are ranked on YouTube on how to protest property taxes, what property taxes, what they actually are, how to lower your property taxes. I have a lot of those videos out there on YouTube right now, where I get a lot of inbound inquiries where people actually want me to do the property taxes for them, which I do not do. So they're protests of property taxes. But I do coach. Even just right now, I can tell you I just got an email right before I hopped on where somebody, let me give you a huge shout out, Tanya. Shout out Tanya. Essentially presenting her case. I gave her advice in the past on how to improve her property tax liability or reduce her property tax altogether. And she has a follow-up question here. So property taxes, this is where you're going to find the most meat on the bone. So let's just start talking about them as opposed to just talking myself up. Property taxes. In the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, you're going to have up to 5 components of property taxes. So your property tax rate, there's going to be 5 components. The first 3 are across the board. They're standard. They're standard in the sense that you can expect to have three of those components, regardless of where you move. Whether you move to Denton, Keller, Southlake, Highland Village, Dallas, Fort Worth, Mansfield, Grand Prairie, doesn't matter. You're going to have 3, and that is your city tax, your county tax, and your ISD, essentially your schools. Those are the 3 components that you need to add together at bare minimum. Every single city in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, you can count on those 3. The other 2 components, you're either going to have one or both. It could be one or it could be both, but it's going to be dependent on the city at that point. And the other 2 are essentially going to be a hospital network. So think of it like a hospital system. Think of it like essentially a public service from the healthcare component from hospital system. And then the other one, which is going to be your higher education. So think of your community college. Think of that type of education. So your higher education. So it's either going to be hospital network or higher education. That's going to be your 5th component of property taxes. So what we're doing now is I'm going to show you exactly how to find it, and we're going to go back to our friend Google. Keller, I keep saying Keller Williams. Keller Texas property tax rate. All right. Where you're going to get the most accurate information is in their website. That's where you're going to find the most accurate information. Unfortunately, not all the cities operate that well in presenting to you this information. So hopefully Keller is a little bit different. So hopefully they do provide the information right out front. And unfortunately they do not. So I could already tell. So what they're doing is just basically giving you the P&L, how much where the money is going, which is fine. But what we're looking to do is we need to see where these rates are. Information regarding Tarrant County property law and list of adopted rates within the county. Okay. I can already tell we're going to need to do some search. Yeah, it's not going to work. No big deal. This is a good learning opportunity. So here what we're going to do is we're going to go to the next one. This is probably that long one. Yeah. Okay. That's fair. This is still Tarrant County, so that'll be fine. We can It's not the clearest way to do it if you don't know where you're looking. And even I am going to struggle with this, but I'll show you exactly the methodology to actually arrive at something valuable. So again, it's the first thing starts with this understanding of those 5 components: your city, your county, your ISD, your higher education, and your hospital network. So what we're going to do is we're going to need to make some assumptions today. I don't like making those assumptions. So that's why if Keller would have just flat out given us that information, that would have been great. Now this is a third party site. Those are often wrong. This, no disrespect to the title company, they're historically wrong. Not because they're choosing to be wrong, it's because this information gets voted on consistently. So those rates change. So by the time they're published and all that stuff and they index in a high regard, they've missed the boat. Okay, maybe this might have something workable. No, it is not. All right, let's go back. No big deal. No big deal. Let's show you exactly how to do this. All right, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna try to solve for 5. Now we're gonna be over conservative here because the other 2 components we're not gonna be as sure. Meaning the hospital and the higher education, we're not gonna be as sure, but we're gonna give it a try. So here we go. City of Keller, we absolutely need that rate. So we're gonna go with 0.312. We need that rate. Now, if you hadn't heard this particular spiel that I've been going on and harping on for the past 10 minutes about property taxes, you would take that number and input it into your formula and go and try to buy a home and be extremely surprised when you get told, no. You're paying 8 times more than that. It's not just 0.312. So of a percent, it is more than that, way more than that. So that's why it's important that I really spend a lot of time here and provide this information, because a lot of folks, especially if you're coming from out of town, you might not recognize that Texas is actually the 6th highest property tax. That's the 6th highest property taxes in the country. New Jersey is number 1, but we're not too far off from New Jersey as well. So we just continue to rank higher and higher in this particular category, which I'm not too fond of. Anyway, so we have the city. What do we need to do now? We need to add the county. Where's Keller? Well, that's in Tarrant County. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down to Tarrant County. So just remember this, 0.312. Now we're going to add Tarrant County. If we add that, that's going to be what? I'm going to have to guess here because I'm not that good at math publicly. 0.506, I believe. 0.506. All right, so we've added that. What else do we need to do? Add the ISD. 0.506 is what we have on the board. Now we're going to go down to Keller ISD. And now this is 0.506. So we're going to say, I'm going to have to round up. I'm going to say that this is 1.6. Yeah, that's close enough. That's close enough. 1.6. We've hit those first 3, city, county, ISD. Now this is where we have to go into some fact-finding mission and have a bit more understanding of what we're even talking about. If I had more time, I would do the following. I would go and confirm that the JPS Health Network, which is actually in downtown Fort Worth, and Tarrant TCC, so Tarrant County College, which there is a campus close to Keller, but it's not in Keller. It's in North Richland Hills. It's off of Grapevine Highway. I would confirm that these 2, this one and this one, are in are our responsibility, are our property tax responsibility, but we don't have time for that. What I'm going to do, just to be conservative, because you're here, I'm just going to go ahead and add this. So I'm going to say these 2, I'm going to go ahead and add them, and hopefully you're pleasantly surprised when you're not responsible for these, but I'm going to add them for our purposes today to our total number. So I believe our total number, we were running at a 1.6. Now we're adding 3, so 1.9. And based off of the information that I've done in the past, or the videos that I've done, that I've done in the past, That's actually not too far off. What did I say, 1.9? I've done a video on Keller. I've actually done 2 videos on Keller. One's a pros and cons video, and then the other one is everything you need to know about Keller. And that's actually, if I remember correctly, I think that's about right. I've done 80 cities in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex on this YouTube channel, and Keller historically has been among the lowest property tax rate, property tax rates. So that's not too far off. So that's actually a pretty good number. All right. So with that being said, 1.9, just to give you some context, because some of you might be thinking that still is insanely high. I don't disagree. But when you're talking about Dallas-Fort Worth cities, that is on the lowest that you're going to find, really. Especially this into the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Now, if you're in the peripherals, like if you're in the outside city still right now, kind of from the outside looking in, you're essentially looking at those first three that I was telling you about: the city, the county, and the ISD, and then the higher education and the hospital network. Very rarely will you be charged for those because there's not one out there. But for our purposes today, where Keller happens to be, how centrally located it is, this is actually the best bang for your buck when it comes to property tax rates, believe it or not. There are cities out there that are 2.7%, 2.9%, bridging on 3% in some cases. So you're doing pretty well. Let's keep going. But it just gives you again a clear understanding of what the property tax rate is in Keller. Because if you just take the averages of Texas, you're going to make a severe lapse of judgment. So we don't want that. All right, let's go. Insurance rates. So this is home insurance. Now, this is the 4th component of your monthly mortgage payment in most cases. So there's 4 components of your payment for the most part. There is your principal, how much you borrow, your interest, how much you pay, how much you're paying the bank to borrow that. So your interest. Then you have your property taxes, which are paid monthly in escrow. So your servicer of the mortgage can pay your property taxes on your behalf at when it's due at the beginning of the year. And then you have your home insurance, which same thing, gets paid in escrow and gets paid by your mortgage servicer at the renewal time. So there's the home insurance. Those are the 4 components of your mortgage payment. So whenever you get your statement, if you own a property right now, go and prove me right. See how much goes to principal, how much goes to interest, how much goes to pay your property taxes, and how much goes to your insurance. So we're going to calculate 0.75% of the entire value of the home. We're going to go into a really big breakdown, and I'm going to spend another 5 minutes talking about property taxes, but I'm going to give you a quick break right now because I understand that I laid it on thick with property taxes that it's a bit much. Yearly HOAs, if we're talking Keller, you're going to run into an HOA. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you that right now. HOAs, especially with new build communities, over 80% of new builds are in HOAs. Can't really avoid them at this point. In more established communities and more seasoned homes, you're not going to run into as many HOAs. There's still going to be some because they form later, but you're not going to find nearly as many with more established homes or more established communities than you do with new construction homes. So just be aware of that. We're not going to mess with that right now, but yearly HOAs, 500 is a fine number to. Yeah, it's a fine number. We can leave it at that. This is something that you're not going to pay in your yearly dues, in your monthly payments, in your monthly mortgage payments. This is something that you pay at the beginning of the year in one fell swoop. There's really no payment plans when it comes to HOAs. So for our purposes today, again, we're trying to hit $469,000. That's what we're trying to purchase. So based off of all the information that we've input in so far, I'm going to say that we earn $150,000. And we're going to get the ball rolling. Now, here's where you're going to input some debt, because that is something that's going to be calculated in your potential purchase price. So how much the bank is willing to loan you. So you need to know your car loans, your student loans, credit cards. What else do you have to pay? What other responsibilities like child support? You can name them here and then input the amount over here. For our purposes today, we're just going to leave this blank. We're going to work with round numbers, but for you, for sure, if you have some debt right there, and this gives you the difference between debt and what isn't debt, so essentially what's debt versus expenses, know the differences and then put your numbers here to get a more accurate representation. Now, if you're going to add somebody else to the loan, if it's a spouse, if you and somebody else are purchasing a property together, add this into your equation as well. All right, so we're going to say for our purposes today, we make $150,000, and now we're going to go to our dashboard. All right, so if we make 100, again, Win the House You Love, go and check them out. Fantastic a resource. For our purposes today, I will, let's say, yeah. Let me share this with you real quick. I'll start here and then we can back our way up here. All right, so the way that this max price calculator works is it gives you different scenarios. It gives you all the information that we just talked about, but it gives you different price points. So the same way that we worked with altos over here where we were looking at the segments is the same way that this calculator is broken up for you, where it takes in your risk tolerance, basically is what it does. It combines that with your purchasing power. So if you're looking for a quote unquote safe zone, then the highest property value that you would like to, that you should probably purchase is $336,000 property. That's your safe zone. That is 33% of your income will go to your mortgage payment. Now, if you want to get a little bit more, if you want to get a bigger loan, if you feel comfortable with a bit more debt, if you feel comfortable with essentially more of your income going to your mortgage payment, you can still get approved, and now you can get approved for $377,000. So essentially a $377,000 property. Now, if you want to continue going up the risk tolerance, again, this is all based off of risk and all based off of your risk tolerance, your risk profile. $486,000. At the end of the day, if you make $150,000, I can already tell you, based off of this criteria, you're essentially able to purchase the property that we just talked about. And this is the number that we try to hit. Now, sometimes we go to aggressive just depending on the price point, but for our purposes today, you're well beyond funded at $150,000. Now, I'm going to adjust it very slightly just so you see the numbers down here change a little bit, but based off of the income of $150,000, you're able to purchase in Keller and be in a moderate risk level. Now, can you get approved for an aggressive loan? Yes. Can you get approved for a risky loan, quote unquote risky? Well, yes, you can. But do you feel comfortable 61% of your net income going towards your mortgage payment? That's something only you can respond. That's only something you can decide. Now, there's several things. One, can you get approved for this amount? Yes, there is going to be a lender out there that will approve you for this. Their job is to lend. But number two, this is a very important thing to note about these types of loans when we get into the aggressive and risky. You need phenomenal credit. You need phenomenal credit score. So while you are technically capable of getting approved for these types of loans and be able to purchase these types of homes, the credit score is something that needs to be very, very on the high level. But also beyond that, is that something that you want to do? Is that something that you feel comfortable knowing that 60% of your income is going towards your mortgage payment? And that's only something that you can decide. So anyway, we can adjust this up or down. I'm actually going to forego that for a quick second because I want to get this number to this number. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add, for our purposes today now, just know that within $150,000, in fact, for less, let me just show you. If you make $135,000, can you afford it? Yep, you can afford it in the aggressive side. So you can make less, as you can see. If you could make $120,000, can you afford it? Now we're getting into dangerous territory in terms of risky, aggressive, and risky. So for the most part, I'm going to kind of pause it there for $120,000. If you make that much and you have this scenario laid out, for the most part, you are going to be able to afford it. Now, let me tell you something super important here is this number is super important. The property tax rate is super important because if this was much higher, you would see that your purchasing power actually diminishes. Why is that the case? Well, you're paying more in property taxes. That's something that gets factored into your max price. That's something that gets factored in. And also be mindful that property taxes, you are paying property taxes for as long as you own that property. It doesn't matter if you own it outright or if you have a loan on that, aka if you have a mortgage. That's why this is so important that you recognize that a Keller, Texas property tax rate of 1.9 is going to be different than a Coppell, Texas, which is right down the road of, I think they're like at 2.5, 2.6 or something like that. So that's ultimately, as I've done more and more of these calculations in this micro level, I can tell you that this is a big reason that this number, you might be thinking it's high, is actually could be much higher or should be much higher if the property tax rate was higher. But with that being said, what I need to do right now is to give you the breakdown of a monthly mortgage payment. So I need to move this number a little bit closer to this, 470,000. So what I'm going to do, don't pay too much attention to the yearly gross income right now any longer. I just we're going to keep it at that. You know what? That's close enough. So forget this number. I just manipulated it so I can get this a little bit clearer for us. That's okay. All right, so essentially if you're going to purchase a property that is 4 beds, we haven't lost the plot. Remember, we were looking at the types of properties that were available in Keller, and we were looking for 4 beds, and we were looking for 4 beds, two and a half baths. I think it was like 20 something over 2,000 square feet in Keller, and the average price was about $469,000, but this is close enough. Our monthly mortgage payment would be about $4,300 a month. Now, if you wanted to buy a home in terms of, well, how much that's going to cost me right now, if you're going to put 5% down, that's going to be $23,000. Your estimated closing cost is going to be close to $12,000. So you coming to the table would require $35,000. For $35,000, you control an asset that's worth $469,000, basically. That's how I look at real estate. That's how you should be looking at real estate, where for this amount of capital in, I am able to control this type of asset, which is huge leverage. But let's continue. All right, so how is this broken down? The principal and interest. So remember, principal is how much you borrowed. Interest is how much it costs you to borrow that. So how much the bank is charging you for that. In this case, it's 7.25%. Property taxes. This is not going to go away. On the contrary, it's going to go up, and it's going to continue to go up long term. So property taxes, as you saw there, if property taxes was 2.5%, this would be up to the $1,000 a month, roughly. So that's why it's so important that we look at that. Homeowners insurance, this is on the conservative, well, it's almost not on the conservative side, but it's a reasonable amount of homeowners insurance, about $300 in homeowners insurance for this type of property. So that gives you that number and what that looks like. Your mortgage insurance, remember, if you didn't put 20% down minimum when you purchased a home, then if you get a conventional loan and a FHA loan, you're paying what's called mortgage insurance. Now, if you got an FHA loan, then mortgage insurance never goes away. It's going to be there for the length of the term, for the length of the loan. Now, if you got a conventional loan, again, both of those you could have gotten into a property for 5% down. But if you get into a conventional loan, that mortgage insurance that you're paying here per month, that eventually goes away once you hit 20% equity, once you own 20% of that property. And then the HOA, although the HOA does not go into your monthly mortgage payment, what we do is we go ahead and quote unquote add it here more for budgetary purposes. So you can budget that in because, sometimes we might not have. I recognize that you might not have, and I might not have. There's times where, like for this right here, my finger, when I slashed it yesterday and I had to get some stitches, I went down to the ER and I had to do cash pay. Well, thankfully I did have $800 to pay for this. No, it was like $700, but I didn't budget that in. I wasn't planning on disrupting my day yesterday and gashing my finger open to where I needed stitches and waste 2.5 hours of my life. But things happen. So here, the reason that I'm going through that story is because I recognize that some expenses we might not be able to cover. So budgeting them in, that's a wise thing to do. And you know that the HOA fee is coming up at the beginning of the year, so you might as well budget that in. That's why we include it in this particular breakdown. Now, there's additional components to this calculator. I've only just touched about 12% of this particular calculator. I want you to check out the link down below. I want you to download this for you. It's a really good investment of what you're about to make. It really gives so many different scenarios. What happens if prices go up? What happens if prices go down? What happens if I offer more? What happens if I offer less? What will that do to my bottom line? This gives you a great way to check that in real time without having to rewrite everything, without having to create an Excel sheet yourself. This, again, is a tool that we use internally. This, I wish I had created it, but I didn't. This is Win the House You Love by Kyle Seagraves. So make sure that you connect with him, check out his YouTube channel, and do all that fun stuff because it's phenomenal information. But anyway, long story short, if you're looking to purchase in Keller or anywhere in the United States, basically, we have agents all over the place. Make sure you reach out. Gladly help you in any way that we can, but also this tool, it is linked down below. At the end of the day, I think we answer the question of how much you need to earn to purchase a home in Keller, Texas. And based off of our analysis, based off of the home that we're looking for, it was $120,000. Could you get into a home for a little bit more? For sure. Or making a little bit more? Of course. Could you get into Keller by making a little bit less? Yes. But based off of these numbers and the way that we broke it down, that's what it came down to. Now, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. And our contact information is linked down below. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I'll see you on the next one.